I just wanted to do a video about God really quick, and like division amongst God's people. Um, there's like like a lot of different Bibles out there. I mean, a lot of these Bibles are corrupt. Some people like get all hot and heavy, and they get kind of like, I don't know, like when you mention that to certain people, they get irritated. But it's really true. If you just do some simple research on it, I mean, I guess you can kind of find dirt on all Bibles nowadays, I guess. Because I mean, I've even heard some funny stuff about the King James. Frankly, what I do is I read like different Bibles, but what I do is a lot of times I'll just match them up, sort of thing, and just kind of, I mean, I guess you can kind of do it that way. I'm not saying all Bibles are, bad or anything, but I'm saying that there are some that are just like, and they're not even really noticeable. Like, you have to use discernment, and frankly, me, I'm just trying to learn about God. I mean, I'm just like, I'm not even at all like a mature child of God. So for people that are in my boat, and even people that are mature, but I mean, a lot of people just don't care. I mean, they don't really care. They just kind of just get in where you fit in. I mean, but it's like a lot of these Bibles, the verses are just twisted. Um, you know, Sorry, I'm just, yeah. These Bibles are twisted. Um, like especially these modern ones. Um, it's just like, I mean, these verses, like if you look at them, like if you do research on them, like some of these Bibles will leave out whole verses, and they're important verses. They're all important, but and then a lot of them will just like twist it ever so subtly to where you really can't, like, without any kind of discernment, or even with some, I mean, this is ever so subtly, and they just twist it to where it just, the meaning changes just enough to where it kind of, it changes the meaning of the verse, and people don't really care, and that's why I think there's a lot of division amongst like denominations. That's what I mean by division, because you got one group of people saying that it's just a mess. It's just a mess, and it's like people nowadays put more faith in the people in these teachers nowadays, like pastors and preachers and all that stuff. I mean, it's like people are putting more faith in them than actually, like, I'm not trying to pretend what everybody else does. I just don't see, where how people could be comfortable with so much division, because I mean, there's groups of people out here that are putting their faith in false Jesuses. I mean, if you're not believing in the real God, then really, what are you believing in? It's just basically you have your own personal God. In So, and I think that there's a lot of division amongst people because, these Bibles is what that's why I brought the Bibles up, because these Bibles just, I don't know, I mean, and somebody might say, well, I mean, at the end of the day, they pretty much mean the same thing. No, they don't. If you really look at them, I mean, like I say, they twist these verses. I'm not saying every verse is twisted. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot of the key verses are twisted ever so subtly, so they just give you a false message. If it's not 100%, if it's 99.9% the truth, but a tenth of a percent false, then it's not the truth. Unless it's 100% pure truth, it's not the truth. It's still distorted. I don't care how you break it down, it's still distorted. And a lot of these Bibles will give you majority of the truth, but just at the very tail end of it, just twist it enough just to where it just perverts the whole message. And that's why there's a lot of false gospels and division, because people believe some people can't even really believe, or people can't even really agree upon anything, any vital. I mean, I could see like little small issues or whatever, I mean, whatever, but when people start disagreeing on what it means to be saved and how to be saved, and you got people walking around telling people, you got people walking around and playing God, man, like telling people they're not saved, and then you have other people talking about, you know, like you have pastors and preachers or whatever, like, kind of saying a prayer with somebody and telling them that now that they're a child, they'll be like, well, welcome to the family of God. Like, what if this person never accepted God into their heart? Like, there's a lot of people walking around this world right now claiming the name of God, Jesus, walking around and telling people that they that they're a child of God, but they're living like everyone else. And that's a lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that they said a prayer with a preacher or a pastor, and the preacher or the pastor just took for granted that these people were actually saved. So at the end of the prayer, they said, "Welcome to the family of God." So now these people walk away, not even in the family of God. These people are not of God, but they walk away thinking they are, because that's what they were told by a pastor. And these pastors should know better, and these preachers should know better. If you're a pastor and you're a preacher and you're listening to this video, no, I'm not a mature person like in God. I mean, I am just starting. I'm just a little bit over a year, but I'm no dummy either. It's not even about godliness. It's about common sense. There's a lot of people out here giving God a bad name, and these people aren't even attempting to live for God. It's not about perfection. It's about, I mean, it is a process, but these people say a prayer, and these pastors and these preachers convince these people. These people don't know any better. They don't know. They just go off into the world thinking that, grace is well, I'm under grace, so I could just go and go back to the same place that, that I came from. I'm just saying. So that's all I have to really say about, as far as that goes. But there is a lot of division, and it's gut-wrenching, actually, because it's scary. Because it's just not about little stuff. It's about, some of it's about vital stuff. And if you can't agree on vital stuff, well, I mean, you're not bringing people to God. You're chasing people away from Him. I think there's a lot of people on this planet that want to come to God, but then they stare at they stare at people that consider themselves children of God. And I say that because I don't know who's a child of God, and I'm not going to sit here and say you're a child of God, or he is, or she. I don't know. Only God knows. So when somebody says that they're a child of God, okay, whatever. I mean, okay, fine. I'm not going to go one way or the other. I'm definitely not going to sit here and play God and say somebody's not saved or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not going to say somebody is saved either, because that's both that's just dangerous. You don't do stuff like that. You leave that up to God. But I mean, at least do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying, when you walk around telling people that they're saved, or vice versa, then that's just playing God. And that's, I mean, somebody can go through their whole lives and think that they're saved, and then they die, and then what? Come to find out that they're not. I mean, at that point, how are you really going to explain that to God? Oh, I meant well, God. Yeah, well, now that person's, rotting in hell because you wanted to play God and tell this person that they were saved when they really weren't. I'm sure it's happening right now somewhere, maybe in your neighborhood, so it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, these Bibles definitely do cause, I believe that they, I mean, not just the Bibles, but there's also false teachers out here that are deliberately misrepresent, they're telling lies. They're telling lies to mislead people, and, they're using corrupt Bibles to do it. So, so somebody might say, okay, well, how do we find the truth then? Well, seek God yourself. It's called a personal relationship. At the end of the day, the Bible might be God's word, but it's not God. It's inspired by God, but it's not God. God, so just seek God yourself. Seek God. Don't get to know somebody through somebody else. If you want to get to know, let's say, if you want to get to know Dave, don't walk up to Mike to get to know Dave. Walk up to Dave and get to know Dave. Get to know God for who He is through God. Get to know God through God. Don't get to know God through something. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to church. I'm just saying, don't put, your faith in some preacher or some doctrine or some, don't do that. I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm just saying that there's some weird Bibles out here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything more than that. And it is what it is. If you do simple research, you'll see what I'm talking about. A lot of people, that's not a very popular thing to say, in this day and age, because people get really uncomfortable, and people just want to be fed sugar. They want to be told everything is okay, you know. They want to be comforted. They don't want to be told the truth. You know, they don't want to be told that there's Bibles out here that are just that will ruin your soul. Like, they don't want to be told that. They don't want to be told that there's a good possibility that they're reading a poisonous Bible, or their kids are reading a poisonous Bible, or whatever. They don't want to believe that, at least for themselves and their family. I mean, it's okay for them to believe that about everybody else, but when it comes to us, we don't want to sit there and believe, you know, for ourselves what we believe for everyone else. You know, like, it's okay for you know, us to believe that somebody else's kid, you know, goes to hell. But what if you die? What if you know, one of your kids died, and like, would you be thinking the same way? Really? I mean, people don't like to talk about hell, but it's in the Bible, and to sit there and avoid the topic is just ludicrous. You know, nobody's saying you have to dwell on it, but a lot of people like to kind of just sidestep hell and think God is just some fuzzy teddy bear in the sky, and, you know, whatever else. Absolutely not. So it is what it is. So I guess that, you know, that's all I really have to say. I'm not on here for a popularity contest. I'm on here just to, you know, maybe help people or whatever. I'm not on here to get people to like me. Frankly, I don't care who likes me and who doesn't, man. I really don't care. I'm beyond that. Life is too short to be caring what people think of you. I don't mean to sound like a prick, but I'm a very likable guy. But if people don't like you, for one thing, they'll find, you know, if it's not the if it's, you know, it's, you know, I'm wearing a green watch. If you're not gonna like me for that, well, you might not like me for the fact that I'm wearing a blue shirt. You know, people with that type of attitude will find a reason to not like you. If it's not one thing, it's another. So I learned that a long time ago. You know, so there's nothing wrong with being nice to people, but, you know, I'm not here to please you, and you shouldn't be here to please me either. So that's all I really have to say. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. You people have a good afternoon.